Good evening, folks, and welcome to Twitch Line again. Special second day show. We're on our normal schedule. You might have seen us actually on Monday, where we had our quote social isolation show. First day of social isolation. It is now day three of people being socially isolated, and what is it? It's a social. What was the D word that goes along with it?
Distance.
Distancing, social distancing. That's right. So welcome to Twitch Line. I'm Hodo, also known as Z, joined as always by Acorn, also known as Tim. How you doing, buddy?
Good. Another uh, day in post-apocalyptic America. Just trying to stay alive and putting together my Mad Max outfit with the leather straps and all kinds of stuff. Getting ready for what's next.
Yeah. So I think it's I think settled in for real now with regards to what people are actually thinking. It's like for a while people were like, oh, it's going to be like a giant experiment with regards to people working at home. I think people have started to realize that shit's real, and that you're going to be either going to be only with your family, and I don't know how long that's going to be. We already have parents complaining that they're around their kids too much already. It's usually a sign of bad parents. But and then there are the single people who have no idea what to do and are literally tweeting, doing talk shows like us, trying to find ways to stay sane in an insane world is basically what it is. And I wanted to start off the show on some funny notes with regards to what's been going on in the social world. Vulture has actually compiled a whole bunch of tweets and things that people have tried to do to sort of keep sane during this sort of social isolation, social distancing time. Um, and what people are doing in the meantime with regards to it. And there are funny tweets. I don't know who Hannah Dickinson is, but there was that big uproar, if you remember, Tim, about the Peloton commercial. That people were like, why is this man buying his wife a Peloton? What is he calling her, fat? And
Right. And why should she look so afraid of him?
exactly, and why she should look fat. Hannah Dickinson, a person who is verified on Twitter, said, I bet a lot of wives right now wish their husbands bought that Peloton for Christmas.
Dude, for real. My sister invited me to come over and use theirs, and it's not a bad idea, especially considering all the gyms are closed. So if it's not push-ups on the carpet here, what's it going to be?
That's exactly right. Exercise is super, super important. The last time we were on the show, that we had the show live on Monday, we were showing that apartments in Spain that were really, really tight together were doing group exercises with one person in the middle, sort of in the courtyard, leading a group of people on their balconies exercising, because it is super important for you to even get fresh air and time out with regards to everything that's been going on. Patton Oswald has been watching videos from Italy where people are literally, playing music and, people are joining in and being collaborative out their windows. So, for example, there was a bunch of people who were watching movies in Spain, in Italy here. They were watching Kim Richards versus Eileen Davidson. Not exactly sure what that is. I think it's a reference to a show that's been going on. Um, some people have tried to sing off their balconies. Ryan Bloomquist, this particular person, tried singing a song here
And
on.
we all said, oh, well, I never was there ever a cat so clever as magical Mr. Mistopheles.
And he got nothing. He got absolutely nothing. I think the problem that he was doing was he was singing from a crappy musical, Cats, which is a terrible, terrible
Well,
musical.
yeah, and I don't think, honestly, I don't think the U.S. is like Europe in that way.
Yeah, people don't
Uh,
want to hear you sing.
I don't know that we feel solidarity right now,
No, you know what? You know what
and
people.
things haven't gotten bad enough.
The scene that epitomizes what America is here is I will pull it up, and you will know it immediately when you see it. And it is from Eddie Murphy, from the
I already
movie.
know it.
Yeah, It
And the
is from
thing
the
is that
yeah.
oh no, go ahead. Go
No,
ahead and
no.
do it.
I
I'll
was
tell you.
just going to say that this movie actually is what epitomizes America. I think, like especially New York, who is now under basically full blown social isolation, social
Behold,
desperation.
Jimmy,
And
life,
this is from
real
Coming
life,
to America.
a thing that we have been denied for far too long. Good morning, my neighbors! Hey, fuck you! Yes! Yes!
Fuck you too. That's right. That is America, right there.
So you can probably do a quick search right here and find oh, what's his name? The guy who does the Daily Show now, Trevor
Oh,
Noah.
Trevor
Trevor
Noah. Yeah.
Noah started singing a song from a Disney movie out his window because he thought, "Oh, I can do it too," and the New Yorkers responded to him.
Yeah, here it is, right here.
So, I've been inspired by
Yep,
Italy,
top
and I
one.
figure, like, why don't we do this in New York? We're also neighbors out here. Let's be together, you know. I can show you the world, shining shimmer. Shut the fuck up!
Exactly the same reaction that Eddie Murphy got, but it is the actual reaction that you would get singing in America. The other story I also wanted to highlight today, just because I think this falls into the world really has nothing to talk about. The world of cats. Again, that's the song that the man was singing and nobody reacted to. Apparently, fans of the movie were clamoring about a butthole cut for Cats. Now, if anybody has actually seen the movie Cats, it's based on the musical by Andrew Lloyd Webber, but they were freaky. Like they put on these costumes and made them like CG animals. You could tell that some people, like Taylor Swift, was a cat, but you could still sort of make out that it's Taylor Swift, but she was like a furry. Um, the apparently some people were saying that they want uh, a perfectly anthropomorphic version where the cats actually have buttholes. And this was an actual article on Vulture, and I think this is just one more ratchet in the insanity of people today in America, which is really sad.
I don't think this represents people in America. I think this represents
Furries.
a group of people that should probably not be allowed on the internet. And it is a bit early in the evening for me to want to say we've reached the end here, and we don't need to go any further with this. So
I just thought that was the
I
most.
don't know. Just
That falls under the most ridiculous thing I've read today, which is, yeah. See, I had no motivation to see cats, but if they were to advertise a butthole version, I really wouldn't want to see cats at all. So, there's that.
now that's out of the way.
Now that's out of the way, let's get to some Reddit topics, shall we? Maybe they can help us get through the day, and where maybe we can sort of help somebody. Let's start with this first one here. Topic one: I'm not a racist. You're a racist. Is that a good place to start off?
Certainly. And this one holds a special place in my heart because of the interactions I have with my wife, which I will get to after we go over this this little gem here from relationship advice on Reddit.
All right.
Uh, it is posted by a throwaway account, but the header is my 21-year-old male girlfriend, female of 22, of almost 2 years says I'm racist because of a jalapeno popper. Okay, so this is where we're starting tonight. Throwaway for reasons. I never thought I would need to make a post like this. Me and my girlfriend have been together for almost 2 years and have been as happy as can be. We have barely ever argued until this incident last night. Basically, we were texting back and forth about normal stuff, college, shows, each other, etc. I told her I was going to be right back while I threw some food in the oven. She asked me what I was making, and I told her I was making jalapeno poppers. the breaded jalapenos with cream cheese inside. At this point, she said, "Ooh, gross," and followed up by saying that she doesn't like jalapenos and she would never eat them. I decided to make a small joke saying, "You don't like jalapenos because you're white. Lol." For the record, I'm Hispanic and she is white. She blew up, yelling all kinds of stuff like, "I can't believe you're showing your true colors, and I've been dating an effing racist," and just going crazy. I thought she was joking around, so I sent some laughing emojis. This made things worse. She called me. I answered the phone, and she started screaming at me, saying I'm an asshole, and I probably don't like black people either. Question, question. I told her to calm down, and I told her it was a joke, and she was like, "Oh, so my race and my culture is a joke to you? You live in our country, and you start insulting my race?" And a lot of other stuff that I can't even remember because of how taken aback by it I was. As of today, we still haven't talked. We have had no problems until this, but apparently I'm a racist because of a jalapeno popper. I don't know what to do from here and how I can solve this problem. I love her and we planned a life together. I even co-signed on a car for her. I need all the advice I can get. I can provide any extra info as needed. Oh Lord.
Oh, where do we start on this one?
So yeah,
Oh,
give me your first impression.
well, the first impression is I think he's overvalued the relationship by just a bit. I mean, they're 21 and 22 years old, for God's sake. And the line, "I love her and we planned a life together," maybe you're looking for it a little too much. Maybe you really didn't know this girl as well as you thought you did. And there were some telling comments that makes me think that she secretly watches Fox News as opposed to other news outlets with regards to how she's been basically thinking. Now, I don't know. I just think that either this is a ridiculously over the top, I'm trying to get it back at you joke, where I really am just like going full bore to see if you can actually get that I'm joking, or she is the one that's a closet racist because the "you live in our country and you start insulting my race" comment.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know. I it's interesting because there has been this thing about people saying that white people are always the quote butt of jokes, and people are getting defensive about it. But everybody's been the butt of jokes for a long, long time, and Asians, Hispanics, blacks, everybody, and they've been made jokes of with regards to their race, and some of it and most of it usually unacceptable too. So I understand that people can be insulted with the fact that they make a joke over, "Oh, you're white, so of course you're not going to like that." But you know, it's this reaction is a little over the top. So over a
Yeah.
jalapeno. Hmm.
There, as far as dark humor goes, you really shouldn't do it if you're not tactful and considerate. Like, you can make a kind of dark joke if you don't go too far with it, or if you don't uh, hurt anyone with it, right?
Hmm.
And I'm sure she would say that she was hurt by this, but I don't know if she can actually claim like a valid hurt here, because it's a jalapeno and it's meaningless. And he wasn't saying anything greater about her or her race or her culture or any of that stuff. It was just a kind of a one-off throwaway comment, and it wasn't particularly good. It didn't cut. It didn't. There was nothing about it. So, from my experience, I'm in an interracial marriage. My wife and I, all day long, we just tear at each other. We just break each other down. We're really rude to each other. We are borderline racist towards each other, and it's just all in good fun. Um, and again, it's not like we're not saying horrible things to each other. It's little kind of funny things that don't mean anything and are, they're not really going to bother most people.
Hmm.
But it's about food. It's about habits. It's about our clothes. It's whatever. this lady just had an extreme overreaction, and then came back with some real racism of her own. Like, jalapeno, oh, you don't like the food of my people, that's one thing. But like, borderline get out of my country,
Yeah.
that's just extreme. I mean, like, if I were this dude, I'd be like, I'd just start calling her colonizer and just get into it, you know?
So
uh,
that's what I would have probably done. I would have just pushed back and been like, "Your country. Weren't there some Aboriginal natives that were here when you got here in the 1600s? You know, that maybe they were here for 10,000 years plus before you came.
right.
So there's that."
Okay,
Yeah.
smallpox blankets, let's go.
'Cause I
Tone
know.
it down a little bit, okay?
And for the record, I think jalapeno poppers at the right time can be good, but for most of the time, they're sort of gross. And
So
it's like,
I mean, this is totally aside, but
yeah,
the ones that come frozen that you buy from the stores are crap, and the ones you get at kind of mediocre restaurants, no good. But if you have homemade ones, they can be really, really good.
yeah. So like but the key is there is actually like roasting your own jalapeno, making your own cream cheese dip, then dipping it in a batter and whole deep frying it. There's a lot of effort into making one of these
Right.
things. And nobody wants to do that. So it's like, oh, okay. But
Eh,
if you make it correctly, if you've been watching some of those, what is it, those tasty videos that you've seen on Reddit where they do like little recipes in 2 minutes and makes it look super easy when in fact it's like if you don't know how to cook, you're going to mess this up and burn your kitchen down, type deal. But yes, they're good that way. But you're right. Usually the
mhm.
only things frozen that are acceptable are Totino's pizza rolls, and
Okay.
pretty much it.
Well, I'm sure there's a scale. Um, do you think that this? I mean, this is moving away from dating. Do you think this is a little case of white fragility?
Of course, of course.
And I mean, maybe she's been called racist before, and this was just her reacting to all that. Or maybe she's on the bandwagon with the Trumpites, and she feels like white people are oppressed, and
The thing about it
she's standing
is,
up for herself.
the significant other should know that if they've been a couple for 2 years, 2 years is a fairly decent amount of time. But you got to remember, they're also if they started dating when he was 19, uh, she was 20, so college age. So what do you do in college? All you do in college is hang out, get drunk, and screw. You don't really learn about people in college a lot of the times, depending on your social aspect of what it is that you're going to be doing. Your time is being taken up by partying in school. So there are not a lot of deep conversations that happen between these two people. So now, at 21 and 22, they're probably at the tail end of their college lives, or she has actually already started her professional life at 22 and is already out there, maybe exposed to new things. And him being an immature 21-year-old white guy making Hispanic guy making a joke about jalapeno poppers, which is, in a way, very sort of, you know, youngin and just sort of making fun of the whole thing, um, could be mentally in a different point. Just,
Hey, I don't think I need to dig so deep on this, man. I
yeah,
think that they're young, but you don't have to be young to make a bad joke, or you don't have to be young to get insulted by a bad joke. But the point is, you don't go nuclear on someone about being racist and then be racist at them. That's just stupid,
no, but you're right.
right?
That is the big overall point. But I'm just saying that, you know, at that age, it's like there's a lot of superficial stuff going on, and you probably don't know a lot about your partner at that age. Even if you've been together for 2 years, like how deep do you get with somebody at that age? You know,
No,
so
I mean,
yeah,
it's all life.
yeah.
Everyone thinks that they are at their greatest point until 5 years later when they look back and they're like, "What the hell was I thinking back then?" And it's every 5 years it happens again. So there's probably some growing that these kids need to do, but at the same time, maybe they just shouldn't be doing it together because I feel like if this is going to turn into something where you're not communicating anymore and the relationship is on the rocks because of it, that
Hmm.
is probably going to end up crashing anyways.
Well,
I just thought it was pretty funny.
it is hilarious, and he's in a bit of a jam too, because he's co-signed her car loan, That's important to know. Because if they break up, guess who's still on the hook if she doesn't make payments? Eh? Eh?
Yeah.
And it's just one of those things in which he doesn't ever mention that he's made a joke like this before. But what if he hasn't ever made a joke like that before and she didn't know that he was in a joking manner? Just saying. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah. So, the things you learn as a relationship matures is very interesting, and this is why a lot of people don't get married young anymore. So it's like there's a lot of stuff going on in the world. I just the reason I'd say that is because at 21 he's already saying as I love her and we planned a life together. 21 I didn't know what the hell I was wanting to do with myself. So
Yeah,
I
but
was one of those
this
guys.
is the
So
same thing where people are like engaged 10 times. Like, oh, you say I want to marry you because it's a great, good feeling thing to do
hmm
when you don't really have any idea what it means to be engaged or to even be married. So all you're doing is talking about it. So yes, he planned a life together, but he planned a life the way a 21-year-old, which is probably like, it would be awesome if we could get like an apartment like in the city and like we could totally eat Chipotle all the time.
oh my god. that
Oh,
that
wait,
that
wait, wait. No, they can't do that because that's not the food of her people. So she probably.
can't throw in those peppers in that fiesta bowl in that rice bowl. Can't do it. You know, it's like she can't have that, and she can't have the spicy salsa. If we really wanted to go there, it's like you could have started making jokes about how like white people hate spicy food and stuff, which is not true either. But
No,
it's a generality that a lot of people make. Because you're in the opposite situation where you love spicy food and your significant other can't handle it, and that is weird to me.
no. Honestly, I like Chinese food more than she does. So I don't know what's up with that. But anyways. It's another thing for us
Mhm.
to attack each other about. We like to do that.
That's exactly right. And out
Got
of
to
those
keep the
attacks
skin
come
thick.
love.
Yeah, oh, it's all in good fun. One up each other and laugh about it later.
hmm So, well, to RA throw RA jalapeno. Good luck, dude. She needs to be able to take a joke. Honestly, is basically, and if she went nuclear for you on you and actually countered your racism with her own actual racism, might want to think about that for a bit before maybe planning even more going forward in your life with her. Just saying. So, good one to start off with, Tim. Very nice, light one. And has there ever been in your life a situation where it was all hunky dory, fine and dandy, and then something innocuous puts you in a really, really weird spot where you were like, I was just really just talking about a cheeseburger. I didn't mean that I was going to kill 500 cows or something like that. Any situations that you can think of where it just went completely and horribly wrong? Oh, yeah, I'm getting a message here. It looks like the internet has dropped temporarily. So in the meantime, I have planned certain things here that I wanted to show for us. There were some funny things on Reddit today and stories that I wanted to talk about while we wait for Tim to come back here. For one thing, it looks like for those who are fans of pornography, Playboy magazine has decided that it is going to be shutting down, most likely for good. For those who don't know what Playboy magazine is, it is a iconic skin rag would be the way to describe it. But what it is it was one of the first ever books that showed really naked women that was accepted in a way general society has had usually like basically in the early 50s pornography and things like that was very looked down upon, and Playboy uh, basically provided a sort of outlet, this sort of glamorous like sexy lifestyle, and that was what it was playing up to. You notice that they claimed it was entertainment for men, but it was one of those things in which there was a whole aura around it. And with Hugh Hefner, the Playboy Mansion, and the women that he would hang out with, he developed sort of this aura around him, this way of people sort of looking at him, saying that like he was the man that every guy wants to be. And he played that up along in his magazine, and he had supermodels and actresses, all sorts of people would model in Playboy, and they were quote tasteful. But it's an end of an era if Playboy is going down, just because the proliferation of internet porn has really just sort of put Playboy on the back pages and made it become sort of irrelevant. And with Hef also going, because I think he's dead, that whole sort of lifestyle ends up going down the toilet, and people don't really remember that sort of manly lifestyle, which is now sort of looked upon as very chauvinist and not necessarily the way that we should be, because it is more equal going forward. So that was one of the more interesting stories that I had read today here. The death of Playboy magazine also, and it was just
Hey,
one of
Z, I'm
those
back.
things. Oh, he's back. So I was just time killing with one of the articles that I thought that we might need, and it was the death of Playboy. So did you see that Playboy magazine most likely never going to print another paper copy again?
Wow. Oh, I mean,
Oh, I don't know. Did we lose him again?
no.
Nope. Oh, looks like he's having a little bit of mic issues here. So,
Can you hear me?
yes, I can hear you right here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, there's something weird's going on. I don't really know how to do this. I'm gonna wait to see if my internet stabilizes. But
Are you on
as
your phone
far
right
as
now?
yeah, I
Yeah.
swapped earlier. Am I sounding really different?
Yeah, you're sounding different, but you're sounding in clear, so that's pretty good.
All right. Well, yeah, it's no surprise that print magazine is having. That's just the nature of the beast right now. Print magazines are on the way out. Still, pictures are not going to hold up to videos, and porn is moving into virtual reality. So yeah, that's gonna be an age relic at this point.
Yeah. Well, a little known fact is the fact that, like, behind the scenes, when Playboy realized the same thing, they diversified in buying porn companies, like more hardcore pornography companies in the background, and those were the things that were making them more money. Um, it was very interesting because they were these proponents of tasteful photography and featuring beauty of women and things like that, but in the background, you know, they were buying porn companies and making a lot of money, being owned, under a shell corporation, but still owned by Playboy. So they knew the writing on the wall too. And the funny part about it is like Playboy never really established a real proper online presence. For being such a iconic magazine of the 50s through the 80s, essentially featuring beautiful women and thing like that, they never established a real foothold in that world, which is now I think dominated by, I think everybody knows, is Pornhub, which is the number one, I think, pornography site here on the internet. So it's interesting how the mighty have fallen, but and Pornhub is just weird because they were actually giving away free memberships to people in Italy while they were trapped in their homes during the quarantine. So kudos to them for giving Italian men an outlet, I guess.
Well, men and women like porn too.
That's true.
Yeah, basically.
You're cutting out there, Tim. I think I don't know if you're not close enough to the mic on your phone or if you're trying to reconnect, but just want to give you a heads up. So
Now this the push to talk on Discord on your phone
Mhm.
is it's not really good. Like if you move your finger at all left to right, it comes off. So
Oh,
it's not particularly useful that way.
you can turn off push to talk on your phone, and then we would hear
Yeah,
everything
but
in.
I don't want you all hearing me breathing and stuff like that. That's
Did
not
you say
good.
breeding?
Breathing? I'm not going to be breathing online tonight. That'll be another evening. Um, I'm slowly getting back on here with my computer,
All right.
so I might try to switch over in a second. In the meantime, though, you were going to ask a question.
Yeah,
Uh,
I just
I
wanted to
just
know.
want
I wanted to know based on what we saw. It looks like a jalapeno popper might have put a kibosh on a relationship there. Have you ever been in a situation where something innocuous caused a really, really sort of like, a really sort of awkward situation that sort of spiraled out of control?
Sure, man. Yeah, plenty of times actually. But the first one that jumped in my head was about a time when I was at college,
Mm-hmm.
and that's about a 4.5 hour drive from my home. And my girlfriend, who lived back home, wanted me. So first of all, I had already made plans for my brother to come down and visit me for the weekend down in down at our university,
Mm-hmm.
and she told me that she had a conference about an hour drive north of where we live, which would have been a 5.5 hour drive. Um, and she wanted me to drive 5.5 hours to drive her that, or 4.5 hours to drive her the 1 hour and sit in the hotel room while she went to this conference and then spend time with her when she was free. So basically, I was going to be her ride there, and I was supposed to hang out and be available to her uh, when she was done. And I
Interesting.
felt like that was sort of inappropriate to ask me to do that, considering I had plans and she knew I had plans. And um, she turned into this whole thing about like, you don't respect me or my education or my, my career. And I'm like, I could say the same. You don't respect my personal time and my planning and my family and whatever else. Like we don't have to go down that road. You basically were looking for a ride and you couldn't get one. So now you're going to call my ass and tell me to drive across states to make this work for you. Like, you know,
No.
this is before Uber, so
Well, there was also Greyhound. Like, if you're going an hour north, you're going to end up in most likely either northern Maryland, Pennsylvania. So, there are other forms of transportation that you can arrange for yourself to get there. So,
yeah. Or
mhm.
she didn't drive, so she could have her parents take her. Whatever. Here's the point. Uh, you know, I'm not a taxi driver, and I also think it's kind of rude for you to be like, just sit in the hotel room and wait for me. Like, yeah, man, the relationship did not end there, but that was one of those wake up moments.
Yep. Well, I know your hate of driving uh, is sort of developed from some of the relationships that you had early on in your life, because driving was such a major part of some of the relationships. Your one of your girlfriends who you live really far away was dependent on you as a form of transportation, which uh, made it very difficult for you to not be pretty much a taxi driver every time you wanted to do something or go somewhere or do anything. And I understand that. And the association of driving just, ugh, I hate it to this day myself because of what I had to go through in college also. So,
Yeah.
yep.
The things we do to get the things we want, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's we signed up for it, but at the same time, when someone is doing those things, you should be respectful of it and appreciate it, and not demand it.
Mm-hmm. So, and that's the thing, right? It's asking nicely, and if they have a legitimate reason, and the problem is right there is the fact of what that person considers legitimate versus what you think is legitimate uh, is usually the issue. Um, because if people are selfish, no matter what excuse you come up with, it'll never be quote legitimate in their eyes when they're trying to convince you to do something that you really don't want to do. So, yeah. So for those guys, girls, who have to who sort of are at the beck and call of their significant other when it comes to driving. It sucks. And just don't end up falling into that trap where you actually end up driving all the time. It sucks. But as we get into that, let's go into something a little different, shall we? How's the boot up process going? Are you a little bit closer
That's
to getting
good.
back? But
I might just stay on the phone here, just because well,
okay, okay. Well, let's go to our next topic here, and I'll read this off and introduce this particular topic. And this interesting topic was brought up. The subtitle, subtitle for this is "What is it with people hyping you up before they've even met you?" And uh, this is from the R dating subreddit, but this is a practice that a lot of people do when they want to impress you with quote friends or people that they really like, family, to try to impress people with regards to other people. But let's read this from Pyre9. So, hi, I'm sorry for the weird title. I didn't know how to phrase it better. So one thing I encountered a few times on dating apps is that some guys will get extremely excited after a very short amount of time of talking. That's normal for most guys. Uh, in some cases, I've talked to them for not longer than 1 or 2 hours max, and they already go, "Oh my God, you're the perfect match for me. You're one in a million," etc. They shower you with compliments and can't stop talking about how excited they are to meet you. They make jokes about how you're their future girlfriend and so on. All that without ever having a single date. I'm not super excited when it comes to dating, so this behavior makes me insecure and I don't know how to react. At the beginning, it's when it still looks like it's all fun and games, I might think it's funny or I'm a little flattered, but then I get more and more uncomfortable because they just won't stop. I don't want someone hyping me up like that. I don't want someone telling me I'm perfect over and over again without having met me. When I voice these concerns, these guys get extremely apologetic usually, but at the point I'm already completely turned off and don't want to meet them any longer. Does anyone know what's going on there? I guess some of these guys are a little insecure themselves or maybe just genuinely excited. But I do tell them that I don't like this kind of behavior and it turns me off and actually scares me a little because it feels like they set a super high expectation from the start. Also, to me, all these compliments feel a bit insincere because, again, they've never met me. They don't know me. It's just strange. Is it worth it to give these guys a chance, or should I better stay away from them? It seems like a red flag, but I'm not sure. Some of them do seem like very nice people. What this is, and Pyre9 is, I assume, a female in this particular case, or a male, could be, male. But in this particular case, online dating has that sort of built up expectation that I think happens to a lot of people. A lot of people are very excited when they meet somebody that they have a lot in common with, even though they've never had a face-to-face meeting. Uh, things like hobbies, television shows that they watch, funny comments that people understand the references to, things like that. Guys especially like that when they find a woman or a significant other that really knows their sort of like funny points or where their comedy is sort of originating from. And a lot of guys have a tendency to get very excited about it. The things that you're saying about, "Oh my God, you're my future girlfriend. I can't believe that you are the perfect woman," blah, 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 is just an example of overexcitement in some guys when they see a lot of things that they feel like would be very, very good for them to match with. And it's going to happen more. A lot of guys do this on a regular basis. Now, if you don't want them to do that, you could always put it in your profile in a lot of these social dating apps about what it is that you don't want. I don't want people to be overexcited when they meet me. I don't want people hyping me up. I am in it for a real relationship, but if you are going to say that we are two peas in a pod that have never really met, I'm not into that. A lot of guys know better. Like if they read that, they won't basically do that. They'll try to keep it contained in most cases, but it's one of those things in which some men are just very excited, and it happens to women too. This is not behavior that I don't think is uncommon for both men and women, especially if you've gone through the social dating grind, where somebody feels like that they've met somebody and they feel like a special bond because of the way that they've been talking to each other and understanding little things that they match up on and becoming very excited about it. So,
Well, do you think that I mean, we're assuming here that people are kind of being above board and
mhm,
not trying to manipulate.
yeah, yeah.
I know that there are people that use this kind of attention and excitement to motivate the other person to feel like feelings and to be overwhelmed with the attention and to be excited with them, to draw them into the excitement, to then bang them and leave them.
Hmm.
Um, it sort of like speeds up that sort of comfort zone that you have to build before you take off your clothes. And not everyone has it. There are people that just, hook up on Tinder and that's it. But there are others that say, I need to feel something first before I go there.
Yeah.
And this kind of talk, this kind of um, manipulation, I call it, is designed to speed that process up and to get people to feel like, oh, we are connected. We have so much in common. Everything is just lining up. I've been waiting so long for this. I've been going through online dating sucks. I've been through 50 people already, and none of them, and
Hmm.
this is like you feel it, and then suddenly you sleep with them, and then they don't contact you again,
So you
and it's like,
are you saying that there's insincerity in these comments that if they happen too often, then it's just basically like a pickup line?
not exactly. I mean, it is kind of it is a technique that people
Mhm.
use. I'm not saying in this case it is. I mean, the other side of that is that maybe this person genuinely believes it, but that is a really immature kind of thing to do
Mhm.
because you don't actually know this person and you are putting all your hopes down as though they're real. Like saying that we're connected in this way is not actually real, and that you're going to be a future girlfriend. That's very hopeful, but it doesn't. You still haven't built the framework for that. So I don't see that being an intelligent thing to do. And they say that narcissists will do something called love bombing, where they do this stuff in the beginning just to withdraw completely, go cold, and use that to control you, so that you, by withdrawing the love, you want that thing back, and you're willing to do anything to get that kind of attention, that super amount of love and attention and affection. So you end up becoming their slave in a way.
Yeah, sort
And
of like a drug dealer giving somebody heroin and not giving them their
right,
fix.
and then pulling it off. Yeah. So you hope that these people are doing that. The error is on the side of being overly hopeful and lost in your kind of immature emotions, rather than specifically doing this to mind control someone. But you never know what you're gonna get. It's the internet, so
That's true, but like the thing about it is that I think we know a friend that has a tendency to go head over heels over somebody that they've just met, and you can sort of see that sort of translate into somebody possibly on the online dating side, also, because if this particular person sort of flips over a person they've just seen or that they've just talked to, that type of behavior can also translate online also because um, the reason that you see a lot of Facebook relationships and things like that where people are talking to each other is because they build up some sort of fantasy in their own mind about these people that they're talking to. And a lot of this plays into that. So, yeah, I can completely I can completely see the sort of like guy trying to manipulate a person, trying to see if like they can sort of express train their way into their pants. But there are also you know, not one too many guys who sometimes go through the whole online dating grind, and it's just one of that immaturity that you say that they don't know how to communicate their excitement properly. That they're talking to this particular person they've matched up, or they got a response to their email, or somebody responded to their profile that they really liked what they said in their profile, and are just expressing it in a terrible way that's sort of overdoing it and turning people off.
Yeah, and
So,
an emotionally
mhm.
mature person will not respond to this, or they'll recognize it for what it is.
Mhm.
If if this is drawing you in, and you believe this from basically a stranger, then you should probably take a step back and determine whether or not you are being drawn into a fantasy, and whether or not you want this to be something more than it is, and whether that want is going to set you up for failure. But oftentimes, people who do this end up losing out on opportunities because they have sped up too quickly for the other person to be comfortable, and the other person's like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, you're kind of freaking me out. There's no way that after talking to me about, liking friends, yes, we both like friends. That does not mean we're soulmates. Everyone freaking likes friends. You know,
Yeah, yeah,
if you're on there and you say, oh, we both have a passion for 16th century Russian poetry, then there's a little bit to work with there, right? Because it's such
yeah.
a sort of, it's
Very
kind of a
specific. Yeah,
specific and
very specific.
acute. Um, but I think people, they let their desire for connectivity overwhelm the reality that they're living in,
Yeah,
and it's a dangerous move because when it comes down crashing, everything's made clear what's true and what's not.
but this is like one of those topics that I think the op here, Pyre 9, is actually pointing out something that is turning her off, but is actually showing that she most likely is very like emotionally mature and
Yeah,
sort of understands this. She might not understand why it's happening, but she understands that it's not something that she would fall for, which
right. I think
is,
her
yeah,
question about it is actually it's
yeah,
actually a rant. It's not a what is really going on here. It is a this is annoying to me.
hmm,
But it seems that she actually believes this person's intentions are good, and I think it's important to see that there are bad actors out there that would use this to manipulate someone into uh, gushy feelings that get them taken advantage of.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And usually, a lot of the times, like those type of people are looking for the quickie, for the sort of the wham bam, thank you ma'am way of doing it. Usually they don't go on a second date if you don't if it doesn't go anywhere. They'll never contact you again afterwards. So it's good to be wary. So Pyre 9, good for you for seeing that. It's one of those things in which just got to be careful out there. I mean, there are going to be guys who are just a little too excited. And don't know how to react in that particular situation. And Tim's also right. There are just a lot of guys who use this as a form of manipulation to get at what they want just much quicker.
Yeah,
And
girls too.
girls too. So, and a lot of guys, depending if they guys will fall for it, women will fall for it. It's just a matter of what it is that what are you exactly looking for in a relationship, and if somebody is sort of giving you everything that you want all of a sudden and then tries to take it away, then then you're not in a proper type of relationship that you should be in. So, yeah. So, but overall, I think it's an interesting question and a good one from Pyre 9, and something that uh, people who are online dating absolutely have to be wary of, because a lot of the times those same sort of catchphrases can be done like at a bar or somebody when you meet somebody in a casual situation, and you can see the creepiness or just the giddiness and where they're particularly coming from by their body language, their facial expressions, and what they're actually doing. When it's on the internet, they're just words. So you don't see any of these other markers to demonstrate what it is that they're trying to express. And it makes it a little bit more confusing and can be off-putting, which is what she was experiencing.
Right.
Mhm.
And in the world, I mean, in traditional dating, face-to-face stuff, you did not have as much exposure. You did not have as much uh, perceived opportunity to have dates. So you kind of, you know,
Mhm.
you got to see what was in those moments. But with people online, where you're messaging tons and tons of people, and people are dating multiple people at a time now, uh, you get exposed to a lot more people types, and that raises the chance that you're going to have more failures, and those things add up, and people get frustrated, and they want so bad for the thing to be right. So when someone comes on and starts talking like this, some people really eat it up.
Yep.
So you just got to be aware, defend yourself against the dark arts, and keep on keeping on.
You need a defense against the dark arts teacher when it comes to social social dating.
We got you, fam.
All those Harry Potter fans out there in the world. I was watching, just as a side note, I was watching a lot of Harry Potter clips today. And if we are going to be socially isolated and distancing ourselves from people, the radio junkies, the radio guys that I listen to in the morning, sports radio guys, at the end of their shows, at around 1:45, have dedicated a movie that they will watch every day during the time of isolation, with themselves or with their wives or with their kids, and they suggest planning out like 15 to 20 movies because we're not going for anywhere for a while. So every movie they think of a team, and they go forward. So I thought that
Awesome.
was very, very
That
interesting.
actually leads us directly into our next topic.
Ah, exactly. What a good lead-in, I say. And and the lead-in is to the topic that we're going to be discussing is virtual dating during COVID-19. And there's something a little extra that I want to talk about here after we talk about this. But do you have the topic up, and can you read it there
Yeah,
too?
I do.
Okay.
My system's all freaking out, but I'm stable for now. So let's
Mm-hmm.
do this. It's in r/dating advice. It is by Peach Stare. The user is Peach Stare, and the topic is virtual dates due to COVID-19. Curious what everyone thinks about meeting someone from an app on a virtual date, given the social distancing, self-isolation with COVID-19. It's such an interesting time in the world of maintaining relationships and starting new ones. Would you be open to meeting someone for the first time virtually, or just wait it out? And this, I mean, the dating forums have just been going wild with this stuff recently.
Yeah.
And, nobody wants to slow down and say, perhaps now is not the ideal time for me to be dating and finding someone. And a lot of people, part of the problem is that they are isolated. And being isolated makes you lonely. And being lonely makes you want to be with someone. So that makes you want to go date. But you don't want to get the disease from being out there. So what do you do? And some people have come up with this idea. Why don't you have your first date online?
Yeah.
You can Skype does it, Zoom. You can do all kinds of different stuff. There's plenty of stuff out there. And
Google Hangout.
yeah, and people are even using a Netflix party to like watch movies all at the same time, and they just sit there and talk as though they were in the same place and have dates. They'll make their own food, sit down in front of their computer, and eat their food together as though they were dating.
And that was
a little
what I
bit
wanted
weird
to
with a
bring up.
stranger. Yeah, go ahead.
That's what I wanted to bring up. It was Netflix Party, because there was a huge article about that today. I think it was in the Times, where they were referencing like the issues that young people were having to go through because they can't go anywhere. And the funny part about it is if you look at the way that Netflix Party works, it looks exactly like Twitch. So, because there are comments there on the right, you can see. So like if you've got like their examples here in Netflix Party is you've got the Spider-Man or Marrying the Witch's Flower. It looks like the Stranger Things. You sort of group watch, and it's a great way to just you're typing comments um, as you're watching a lot of things. But it's very similar to what we do here on Twitch. So I just think it's
Do
very
they
interesting.
have casual encounters where you can randomly be paired up with a single person of the opposite sex around your age and just like be on a date with them, like a blind date?
You know what? I don't know. I
That'd be kind
actually
of fun.
I haven't installed Netflix Party yet, but I'm willing to try this weekend to see like if you pick a movie at a certain time, do you get put into a channel with randos, and therefore you just end up starting watching the movie with them.
That'd be a
Uh,
cool way to meet people and
it,
kill time.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're watching a movie or watching a television show that both of you enjoy. At the same time, you're making funny comments, and maybe somebody ends up like, "Oh, I think you're hilarious," you know.
Yeah.
So who knows?
I think this is probably a good time for me to insult most of our viewers and younger people by saying that this situation now is very much a problem for young people of this generation. People who grew up with super fast internet entertainment at all moments in your hand, at just never having to go without.
Hmm.
As children, I remember like not having anything to entertain me and having to make things fun
Are you going
when
on
there
an
was
old
just
man
nothing.
rant? You're
Oh
going
yes,
on.
I am. I mean, you know, it's not as bad as like my grandfather who would be like, "Oh, we used to kick a rock around." It's not that bad, but I am saying that people coming off of the heroin that is constant input entertainment, just never having to stop. You don't even have to. You don't even have to stop the internet when you're taking a crap. It's just go, go, go. So coming off of that in a way, I mean, we're not without internet right now, so they can still do the same stuff, but you do feel a sense of isolation because of this disease. So people are reacting in a way that like, oh my god, I can't do the things that I want to do. What can I do? When they still got everything, every option, but like they're still freaking out about it. So
Hmm.
it's going to take a kind of learning and adapting to the environment and getting creative. Maybe opening up a few little areas of your brain that you haven't had to work with in a while since you're a kid, figuring out how to play, and in dating, yeah, you're gonna have to figure out how to connect with people without being physically with them.
Yeah.
So I thought it'd be interesting to look at some of the pros and cons of virtual dating right
Oh,
now.
sure.
Um, and I'd say one of the major pros is that you don't get or give someone this deadly disease. So that's number one. You're while you are not physically near them, you are protected. So it also protects you in a way that you're not rushing into something physical before you know the person. Some people get caught up in it and end up getting physical before they're really ready or mentally there and emotionally there, and this will keep you from making that uh, hormonal mistake. I would say that another pro is that this is free. You don't have to go out spending $50 to $100 per date to get to know someone. If you get on there and you find out after 20 minutes talking that this person's no good, just hit disconnect. You're good. That was free. um, you'll actually get to know them more deeply because it's all conversation. It's all that interaction, and that could be a good thing for you for starting off because you know whether or not you want to spend more time with this person. And if you do end up getting freaky, it's through the computer, so you're not going to catch any STDs that way. I mean, you might end up on the internet, which is not cool, but
Yeah.
at least at least you can have some safe sex. Um, do you have anything you'd add to the pros?
You've covered a lot of it. I mean, the thing about it is that the uh the callousness of what you can do to the other person on the other side with regards to I don't really like what this guy is saying and I'm just leaving, which you already made a point of. But there are certain situations when you are dating, if you are in the middle of a date and somebody offends you or says something that is just really just bleh, and you're like, oh no, 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 this is just not going to happen. But you sort of have to sit through it, sit through your meal, and still be sort of casual with this person, and even though you know it's not going to go anywhere. The ability to just sort of jump is the biggest, I think, plus in all of it, where you can just be virtual dating and then all of a sudden you're done.
Yeah, that's good in a couple of ways.
Yeah.
Do you think that this style of dating would benefit people that were more introverted, maybe, or more homebodies? Like, do you think that there are people that suffer in the normal world of dating that might actually benefit from this situation?
Yes. Yeah. I think there are a lot of quote wordsmiths out there who are people who are able to communicate using their words via typing or vocalization and just talking without the sort of uh, the sort of stigma of beauty and what people actually look like. I mean, there's a freaking Netflix show about it at this point. Um,
Oh God,
I don't know what I don't know the show where you're
Love is Blind.
blind. There it is. That's the one. Like when my CEO even knows about that damn show, you know that there's something to it because there's something about this generation, and their sort of constant social uh, they have it's not awkwardness, it's they are
The anxiety.
anxiety, yeah, the every person under 25 seems to have some sort of social anxiety, and
Yep.
I'm not exactly sure why. I always thought it was just because people aren't exposed to it enough, so they don't know how to react to it. Like when you're a kid and you don't have technology, at least in our age because we're older, but you were forced to interact with other kids, and your social behavior was shaped as to how you would get people to react to certain things that you would say or do, and therefore it would teach you how to act around people with regards to cues that you would get from your friends or people that you would be around. But I think with technology and people texting and not actually seeing any of those cues, it has led to a whole lot of people not understanding how to deal with embarrassment, and that translates into social anxiety. And like they don't understand that's not what they should be doing, and they don't understand that their behavior is either off-putting or embarrassing, and and then they don't know why because they were never taught those types of things. So it's I think this type of dating, then this virtual dating that this person was talking about, is the future for these people because it really gets rid of some of the issues that happen when you are in person dating with people because they were never taught how to talk to people, essentially, how to
Yeah,
understand
man.
body language, how to know what you're doing is off putting, and to stop it when you do it.
Don't
So
skip leg day. Right.
yeah.
That's functionally what it is.
Mm.
It's social anxiety because of lack of working those muscles, the muscles of
Hmm.
interaction. And yeah, it's exactly what you said. It's a function of the way that people communicate now, technology taking some of that load off and making things easier in a way, but also keeping you from having to uh, work through some of the issues that came with the traditional way of talking and socially interacting. So yeah, you get a lot of people that are really, really freaked out about it.
Yeah.
And uh, going out and dating, it's fine if you want to date online, long distance, and that kind of thing. You can maintain that and be okay with that. But when you go from that to the in person stuff, there's a lot of stuff that's lost in translation, and you got to those those things kick in. There's some natural elements to it, which will help you, but it will take practice.
So a perfect
So
example of this is I got into an argument with a person on Reddit, on my favorite subreddit, "Am I an asshole?" So I rant about this place, but I hang out there all the time reading comments that make me just seethe with anger. But one of that place though is filled with people who don't believe what you believe, and otherwise. But this particular one was associated to a girl who was trying to get advice from people on the internet of all places to get her dad from to be embarrassing, stopping embarrassing her in front of guys that she brings home. Like, so she was explaining that when she would go on a date, and she was obviously in high school, her dad would want to meet the guy, and which I think is sort of fair. If you're going on a date with a teenage girl, then you want to know who she is dating, and they sort of understand who you are. But this particular dad um, would always be very funny with the. In my way, I thought it was funny. She thought it was horribly embarrassing, but he would be like, oh, he's got his gun and he's trying to scare him. Or there was one time she said that she showed baby pictures of her, and like the trying to emphasize, oh, like, this is my little girl, and you don't make my little girl cry, blah blah blah. And I made the point that it's like, you have it easy, because dads in my age would even go further than that in embarrassing their children. And it's not just the girls, it's the guys too. And if you think that it's assholish behavior, then I don't think you understand parenting at all. And you shouldn't, you have to put up with it, because this is what parents do. I got so much shit for that. And I couldn't believe it. I was like, "What? Where have you been? Why are these people so freaking mad?" And I just realized that it is just a whole bunch of people that same age group who doesn't want to put up with that bullshit. And it's like, if you are a 15-year-old, 16-year-old dating age, every parent is going to do that to you. And these kids just didn't understand. They didn't understand why. And it's because we suffered through it when we were younger, and that sort
cycle
of, yeah.
cycle of abuse.
Yeah, and that's what somebody referred it to. Is like, he's like, you have to break that horrible cycle. It's like, no, you don't, because what it did is it taught me to become stronger and to not be afraid when my dad pulled out the naked baby picture that we have hanging on our wall, because he did that once to a girl I brought home, and that shit was horrible. And it's like, oh, look
That's
at this.
funny.
It is hilarious. But when it happened to me, I thought that was like, oh dear God, what the hell is going to happen? And then when you realize that sort of embarrassment is temporary, and that your friend finds it funny, and it was just one of those things in which now you go to their home and you see their parent do it to them, it's a rite of passage. But it's also one of those things that also teaches you as a kid that everything is temporary, that anxiety doesn't need to last. It's one of those things in which it's like, you have to experience it to understand that it's not forever. It's fleeting. It's funny. You refer to it in a talk show 20 years later. you know, it's like, it's just one of those things in which it's like, you'll look back upon it and you realize that it was hilarious, and it was not in any way harmful. And these people on the internet had no idea what the fuck I was talking about. And that just made me sad.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I would argue, I could argue on both sides for that one.
Yeah.
I think some people take it too far. I don't necessarily think you need to have a gun, be cleaning your gun when they go out on their date. I think that's
It's
extreme.
stereotypical.
I did see a very funny version of that, though, which was, it wasn't a gun, but basically the father shakes the kid's hand, asks him a couple questions, and then as he's going out, he whispers in the kid's ear, he's like, hey, my daughter is smiling right now and happy, and I expect her to come home looking the same by this exact time that I give you here.
Mhm.
And just keep in mind, whatever you do to her tonight, I'm going to do to you. Okay? I'm like, damn.
And that would have been unacceptable in the thread that I was in.
Yeah, I don't know. Some people go too far. I'm sure there's something in between that's fine. But, I think if people raise their kids right, which, you can't necessarily count on, but if they do raise their kids right, then you'll know, like, you would hope that your child knows how to treat another person,
Mm-hmm.
or that your child knows what they're willing to do and not do, and what they're willing to accept from another person and not. I, I've got in my head a few things that I would expect from a kid that was dating my daughter, or my son, and I'm kind of traditional, old school in certain ways, but like if someone rolls up to our house and just holds down the horn and expects my son or daughter to go out and get in the car with them, that's not going to happen. I'll shut that shit right down. you know,
Yeah, you come in the house.
that's
Yeah.
right. Yeah, there's not. This is going to be you got to earn this, and you got to show that you're not. You're willing to treat this person with respect. I remember my my high school girlfriend, my first girlfriend, her dad, when we were going out, he would say, "Don't take my daughter to McDonald's. I don't want her putting that in her body. I want her to respect her body, and I want you to respect her enough not to feed that to her."
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, "Well, okay, like we're kids. What do you want us to do? We don't have any money. We gotta eat some cheap stuff."
So,
but like,
so Wendy's, I guess.
if we went to McDonald's, we just threw all the stuff out before we came back, or whatever. But like, the idea behind it was actually good, right?
Mm-hmm.
He was like, "Respect my daughter, take care of my daughter. I'm trusting you." And he kept calling her precious cargo whenever I went out because I was driving, and I had to like consider that her life was in my hands. I'm like, yeah, I'm not that crazy dude that's gonna come here and like abuse your daughter. Really, I'm just trying to like have a girlfriend and go to the movies. But whatever, what can you do? It's a learning experience. But if you have kids and you can't torture them, what's the point in having kids?
That's right. That's the thing, and and we don't mean by torture as in constantly doing it, but
Correct.
yeah, we mean like basically certain situations where you can sort of poke the bear a little bit, and have a little fun with it all. It's harmless.
Yeah.
So
Embarrassment's good for you to an
Mhm.
extent. So
yeah, you just don't go
Um,
too far with it because that's how kids develop complexes.
true.
So, well, on that note, I think that's going to be it for us today. Trying to get back here into the normal scheduling with Reddit topics and relationship issues, but we live. It's like we live in a time of Corona. There's a movie. Uh, Living in the time of living dangerously or something like that. It was something weird, but we're sort of living that now, where it is a whole new world for everyone, as people try to struggle to find like a normal, which I don't know if that even exists anymore in the way that we live, but
Yeah, who knows, man?
man,
Before some people were like, I don't know. I don't know if we should sleep together. You should get tested first. Well, I wonder if we're at the place now where it's like, you got to get your corona test first.
yeah, it's like, oh, and that shit is real. It doesn't matter how old you are. If you do get it, it's brutal because it is not just the flu, like the stupid people have been saying. Respiratory issues, high fevers. You do not want to suffer through that. So, as a reminder to everybody, stay safe. Wash your hands for 20 seconds, desanitize surfaces, and do your best to, if you are showing any symptoms, isolate yourself from everybody else to make sure that you don't spread it, to spread what you have or what you might have caught. But in otherwise, just keep on keeping on because eventually everything will return to some sort of normalcy, and everybody will be able to go outside again. I think though there'll be an appreciation for the outside after all of this is done. I think hopefully people realize that being cooped up indoors isn't necessarily all the fun it's cracked up to be. So
Yeah, except there will be a section of the population that never even knew the coronavirus was here. They're like,
yeah.
playing WoW the whole time and like, oh wait, what happened out there?
I was like, hey, what? Blood plague? Zul'Karub? But that's next month. What are you talking about? So, yeah. So, yep. So, everybody's please sort of stay safe. Join us again next Wednesday. We might have a special show on Monday again, depending on what happens over the weekend and any cool things and things that we can update you on. But we just love vlogging. So for anybody who's been sort of watching us and joining in on the conversation, thank you so much for joining us today. And we will see you next Wednesday, hopefully, or maybe even earlier than that.
Yeah, good times. Thanks for playing with us.
Yep.
See you soon.